Mom okay?
Yeah, they said she was fine.
What do they want?
Right now, they want me.
Good, I'll come with you.
I want you to stay right here.
Why?
Gene Hackman's wife has been kidnapped, and Matt Dillon wants to know the truth about his mom's fate in Target, one of the new movies we're going to be reviewing this week on At the Movies. I'm Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And I'm Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to Target, we'll also be reviewing Bring on the Night, a documentary on the efforts of the 34-year-old rock star Sting, starting a new jazz-influenced band. And in our special X-ray segment at the end of the show, we'll answer a lot of viewer calls and letters by examining the controversy surrounding the ending of the popular new thriller Jagged Edge. We'll try to tell you not who done it, but rather who it was done to, without spoiling the fun if you haven't seen the film. But first, Roger begins with a review of a new thriller starring Michael Caine.
Well, thriller is almost too kind of a word to use for this movie, Gene. It's called The Holcroft Covenant, and in it, Michael Caine is a man of 43 who's always hated his father, the father he never knew, a father who was a top Nazi and a member of Hitler's inner circle. Then Caine's told about a secret covenant his father drew up just before he died, a covenant that took money stolen from the Third Reich and placed it in a Swiss bank account so that today, 40 years later, $4.5 billion are available to Michael Caine and the children of two of the other Nazi generals to make amends to the victims of Nazism. Well, naturally, there's a lot of intrigue surrounding this covenant, and most of it is ridiculous, utterly ridiculous. I think you're going to like this scene where Caine meets the daughter of another general, and I don't think it was really supposed to, but this scene plays almost like a satire on the dialogue in thriller movies.
These precautions may seem foolish to you, but they are necessary, I promise you.
Listen, lady, 3 days ago, I was 40 stories in the air over New York in a gale-force wind, hiding from an insane building contractor. Let me tell you something. I felt safer then than I do now. So any precautions you want to take are okay with me. Next question.
I was going to ask if you were American, but I think we've answered that already.
I'm a foreign-born American citizen. My father was Heinrich Clausen, but my name is Holcroft.
I'm British. My father was Wilhelm von Thibault. My name is Tennyson.
Did you know a man named Peter Baldwin?
No, but I know who he is. You said, did I know?
Yeah, he's dead. He was murdered. Do you know anything about Manfredi and the covenant that our
Peter
father...
Baldwin was murdered.
Yes. Do you have any brothers or sisters?
I've an older brother, Johann. Murdered by whom?
I have no idea. Johann is the one I should be talking to. How do I get in touch with him?
Peter Baldwin murdered, my God. We cannot possibly talk here.
Well, this wasn't my idea.
Don't look at me.
This wasn't my idea, you know. I don't usually meet people in churches. I meet people in their offices or at lunch.
That's known as catching up on the plot. Before long, Caine meets a mysterious figure who wants to be sure the money will really be used to fight neo-Nazism.
In any case, it is certainly known to my organization. To enlighten you, sir, I'm the head of Wolfschanze. It is our function to make sure the horrors of the Third Reich are never repeated again anywhere in the world. Convince me that you are not a member of the neo-Nazis.
I don't believe this. I do not believe what I am hearing.
Convince me, please. Tell, for example, how you plan to use this money.
I don't have to tell you or anybody else one damn thing.
But, my dear sir, you do. You do. Otherwise, I will kill you.
Woo.
Yeah, and if he does that, the movie's over.
That's right. This only happens in the first 30 minutes. This movie is so complicated, they have to stop every 10 minutes to explain everything. You know, like, well, he's dead. Dead? Yes. And do you know another man? No, but I know his father. And it's just amazing. And even then, I could never figure out half of the time what they were talking about. One of the things you know going into a movie like this is that absolutely nothing is what it seems to be. Everybody has a secret motive and a double identity and a hidden agenda. And in fact, that almost spoils the fun, since the moment you do meet a brave, courageous character who's supposed to be a good guy, you automatically assume he's the leader of the bad guys. And of course, you're right. In that second scene we saw there, I was sitting there in the theater, and so were you, I think, as we talked a little bit afterwards, saying that movie wouldn't have worked if everybody in that scene wasn't somebody that you didn't think he was.
Right.
The Holcroft Covenant carries this formula so far, however, that halfway through the movie, I gave up trying to even make sense out of anything. The Michael Caine performance is a really brave attempt to keep a straight face in the midst of insanity, but this movie is so baffling from beginning to end that there were times when I was just shaking my head and saying, all I'm really looking at is people making random speeches on the screen.
Well, what it is, it's just flip-flops. He's a bad guy, he's a good guy, he's a bad guy. And anyway, they shuffle the cards at the end. You know, it's going to be some kind of ending.
That's
and
right.
Whichever way they shuffle the cards. And so you just sit there and you get tired, frankly, of being toyed with as the audience. It can be done well in a thrillers where you have a couple of tricks played. But when you play about 20 tricks in the audience, then the audience gets ticked off.
Now, this movie was directed by a man who has made some good movies, John Frankenheimer. And as I was looking at this movie, of course, it's based on a novel by Robert Ludlum. And I realized that the last Ludlum movie I saw was The Osterman Weekend, directed by another good director, Sam Peckinpah. And that movie was totally baffling to me. I didn't understand a second of it. I now realize maybe Ludlum is unfilmable. Maybe his movies are so complex they can't be filmed.
Maybe when you're reading, you can, different chapter each night, you know, you can take notes and follow it along. But when you get 20 in 2 hours, it's really frustrating and sort of annoying. Coming up next at the movies, something different in rock documentaries. Not one about a rock group at the height of its career or at the end of its career, but a new group just beginning, led by the rock star Sting. On the Night is the title of the pompous and at times downright laughable new documentary based on the first rehearsals and concerts of a new band fronted by the rock star Sting. His real name is Gordon Sumner. And in this new band, he plays with a number of black jazz musicians and singers. Now, Sting used to be with the group known as the Police, and he opens the film by saying that this is going to be a very special documentary, not like most rock documentaries about a great group at the end of their reign, but about a new group. And when the group does sing in this rehearsal and in this performance montage we're going to see, the sound is pretty good.
If I built this fortress around your heart. Now full voice. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I built this fortress around your heart.
Unfortunately, at regular intervals, Sting doesn't sing. He talks, often in a pompous or self-inflated manner.
Yes. It was the first time I was lying in bed in a hotel in the north of England. We'd just done a concert. And our first record was in the charts. And a window cleaner was whistling Roxanne. And that was it. I almost wept because I realized that he was whistling a tune that I'd written, something that I'd composed in my front room for no other purpose but to amuse myself. And there was this window cleaner. And I had a very similar experience in the hospital after Jake had been born, where one of the orderlies was whistling Walking on the Moon as he walked past the door. It was a full circle, really. It's a great privilege for that to happen to you.
I'm sure it is a great privilege, but the line he says, "I almost wept," that's a little shaky. It reminds me, Roger, of the first time I heard you saying a line from one of my reviews, and I heard you repeating it one day, and I almost wept.
Did you really? Probably because I was laughing while I said it.
Thank you. Elsewhere in the film, now this is where he really goes off the wall. Elsewhere in the film, he compares his life to an oil tanker roaming the world, never at rest, never pulling into port. That's right, except for his multi-million-dollar concert tours. He manages to get into port for those. Many times during this film, I wanted to yell at the screen, "Oh, just shut up and just sing." I didn't need, really, to see the birth of Sting's baby son on camera. You see this birth, it was like a school class film, you know? It comes across as the ultimate in narcissistic music videos. The next thing you know, he's going to show us slides from his trip to Niagara Falls with the woman they had the baby with when they get married. Other disappointments include a couple of fraudulently staged scenes, as well as the failure of the film to live up to its promise of showing us how songs in a new band are created. Where are the writing sessions? How are the casting decisions made? Bring on the night, I say. Bring on the singing.
The movie was directed by Michael Apted, the man who made Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yes.
I thought it might be good. Totally phony. How'd you like that tour group of old ladies who were taken through their chateau while they're rehearsing? I'm sure that the chateau would be open to...
Right, and I'm sure the ladies would actually want to go through it while they're being there.
Yeah, right. The next bus is going to arrive in
Use the old ladies.
The other thing that I didn't like was the way that the movie constantly centered on Sting. It's a vanity production. It's supposedly how he's got this whole band together. There's a little talk about how he's going to make almost all of the money, and they're not going to make very much, but they never ask him about that.
Yeah, that's the most honest thing in the film, is the manager who says Sting's going to get all the money. One of the guys interviewed, one of the musicians interviewed, and I'm glad they did some interviews with the other side musician, says, we'll see if it's really going to be a band where the decisions are shared. Based on the evidence here, I think the answer is no, but I'm not sure that the film really wanted to say that. We don't follow up, in other words, on the issues that are raised.
This movie is not a true documentary because it doesn't have journalist instincts. For example, the most interesting human story on the screen was one of the backup singers, one of the women, who started out as a phone girl in a New York house of prostitution. Now, how she got from that to the top ranks of pop and rock superstardom would probably be more interesting story than how Sting is going to have his new baby on camera.
And I'll tell you this, my favorite character in the whole film was not Sting, it was the keyboard artist. I liked him. Kenny Kirkland, I think.
Kenny Kirkland. Next at the movies, Gene Hackman is ready to trade his life for the life of his kidnapped wife.
If anyone has to go, I'll go.
Nobody.
Our next movie is named Target, and it sounds like a really great thriller. Too bad that's not the case. The movie was made by an all-star team. The director is Arthur Penn, who made Bonnie and Clyde. The star is Gene Hackman, who had his first great role in that movie. And the co-star is Matt Dillon, one of the best young American actors. But all that talent produces only a lame, boring, unconvincing movie that I did not believe in for 1 minute. Not even the little daily things right at the beginning of the movie before the action starts. Just sitting around the house with Mom the fashion model and Son the stock car racer and Dad the lumberyard owner. Here's the setup. Hackman has just learned that his wife has been kidnapped in Europe, and now Matt Dillon is trying to force more details out of him.
Missing? What the hell are you talking about?
What's happening? Tell me.
Well, where in the hell is she?
Dad?
Mr. Howard, what's the procedure in a case like this?
Case like what?
Notify the police?
Tell me, will you?
Good. Thank you.
What's with Mom, huh? What's up?
That was Paris. Your mom's split from her tour. That was a guy from the American consul. Some kind of mix-up, but they're expecting him back in a couple of hours. I guess that must happen a lot. Tourists leave their groups 1,000 times a year. Come back a day later with perfume and sexy underwear. Cops have to check it out, that's all.
Tourists? We're not talking tourists here. We're talking about Mom. And I know you. You don't drink unless you're nervous.
Listen, your mother's going to rejoin her group this afternoon. I'm going to hear from the American consulate. Relax.
How long has she been missing?
48 hours.
48 hours? Say it right, will you? That's 2 days.
Hey, that's 2/7 of a week. Naturally, these two ordinary Americans turn out to be red-blooded action heroes in sequences like this one. That's your average father and son looking for Mom in Paris. I guess maybe Target was supposed to be a movie like Missing, with two generations coming closer together through a threat to the one person that they both love the most. But this movie goes wrong right from the beginning. The family never feels like a real family, not with Hackman as the father, Gail Honeycutt as the mother, and Matt Dillon as the son. I know you, Dad. You don't drink unless you're nervous. What casting director thought those three people could possibly live under the same roof? And then the plot is a ridiculous mismatch of thriller cliches which aren't even handled well on the cliche level. And I like a good cliche. At one point, Dillon is seduced in Paris by a woman who is so clearly a spy that not only did everyone in the theater know it, but I think everybody in Paris and probably in the whole common market. That woman is a spy. She's going to pull a gun on you. And the climax, with Gail Honeycutt wired with explosives as a booby trap, is one of the most deranged and ludicrous movie endings I've ever seen. Because what are we going to say? Hey, let me change it. Oop, I didn't get the wire right. Mom has been blown up, right? That's how the movie ends. Right.
The end. Gee, look at all those body parts being blown apart. Brought to you by Brian De Palma. Now, here is my problem with the film, and it can be summed up in one word, and you used it. The word is missing. Because you compare this film with Missing, and it just falls apart. Because in Missing, you had flesh and blood people in a real situation with a film with an attitude, taking an attitude about the United States government. What is this film about? It's about swimming in the river. It's about fake lines said from actors who don't possibly believe what they're saying. It's about Hackman imitating a bumbling fool and then overplaying, in my opinion, a guy who has some experience in the spy world. It's a bad performance by Hackman, which is shocking for me to say and shocking to see. There is nothing right with this movie, and made by fabulous talents.
It's made by Arthur Penn. It's hard to figure out, though, what Hackman could have done. I think what happens, essentially, is the movie totally fails on a human level, so then they try to turn it into an action thriller, and Arthur Penn is apparently not the man to direct an action thriller, and also this script is so filled with unbelievable coincidences that you just cannot even care about the situations they're in.
So far, we've had 3 good directors come up with 3 bad films. Coming up next, for weeks now, moviegoers have been calling us and writing us about one burning issue. Who is the dead man at the end of the thriller Jagged Edge? We'll have the answer next.
It was a crime so violent.
You think I killed my wife? Prove it.
Our special X-ray subject this week, not who done it, who was it done to, in the popular new thriller Jagged Edge. For weeks now, I've been getting calls every day at my newspaper, I think Roger too, and the conversation goes something like this. Some friends of mine are having this argument, and we're wondering if you, and I interrupt them before they can finish the question, because I know the answer they're looking for. They want to know who is killed at the end of Jagged Edge, a thriller about a woman attorney, Glenn Close, defending a man, Jeff Bridges, accused of brutally murdering his wife. At the end of the film, and don't worry, I'm going to be very careful here, a hood is pulled off a corpse, and because director Richard Marquand shoots the corpse from an odd angle, looking down its nose, some people are having a surprising amount of difficulty seeing who the corpse is. He doesn't hold a shot long enough or take a straight-on angle. The possible corpses include 4 men. First, is it Jeff Bridges?
Your firm has got to handle it.
Jack, we're corporate lawyers. We can barely handle a hearing.
Jack, get some for us.
So what do you think?
I'm innocent. That's all I can really say.
I really think he could have...
Or is the dead man the district attorney who is out to nail Jeff Bridges, played by Peter Coyote?
All the money? That is the oldest crime in the world. Only you're real smart. You want people to say, Jesus, you think he could have done that to his own wife? If I was going to kill my wife, that's the way I'd do it.
Or is the dead man the tennis bum, played by Marshall Colt?
What kind of sex did you have with her? Did you tie her up?
Or is the dead man the lecherous locker room attendant, played by Louis Giambalvo?
It's in the row right behind his.
Mr. Fabrizi, does this look like the knife that you saw that day?
No, this one's different.
Now the tough part. How can I tell you the right answer without ruining the movie if you haven't seen it? Now, part of me wants to tell all of you who have seen the film to go with your first instinct and that you're right if you do. But if that is too vague an answer, because I'm sick and tired of all these calls, if that's too vague an answer, then I guess I'll have to resort to that old television trick, which is turn down the volume of your TV and I'll whisper the answer. And then I'll wave my arms like this when I'm finished. See, they never tell you when to turn back the volume. I'm the only guy that knows the instructions on how to do this right. Okay, now, the dead man is... Now, wait a minute. I'm going to wait a second for those who don't have a remote control volume switch. And for those who have just pushed it the wrong way, like I do when I get real nervous.
Louder, right?
Yeah. Okay, now here it comes for real. The dead man is... Jeff Bridges. I didn't have to whisper, but I think it's kind of funny. Okay. Well, I just finished waving my arms. It's all clear now. And I still think the best ending would have been where the dead man's identity was not revealed.
I want Sam to have access to all your personal and corporate correspondence, your financial records, your wife's records, everything, absolute access.
You got it.
We've got almost 4 months till the trial. I don't want you out in public.
I don't really see any pictures of you in the paper. I want you to look as though your life has been shattered.
My life has been shattered.
Just give Roger Ebert a call at the Chicago Sun-Times. He'll be happy to answer any movie trivia questions you may have. And if you talk back to me, I'll give him your private home phone number.
That's very kind of you, Gene, to say that the ending that you would have preferred was the ending that I said when we reviewed the movie on this show that I would have preferred, which shows that I'm right and that you agree with me, which I'm happy to see.
Okay.
It would have been more fun if we didn't know who the killer was.
Right.
And what I'm kind of delighted by, and I'm getting calls every day, I say it was the prosecutor, but my buddy says it was Jeff Bridges.
Right.
I love the fact that they gave the murderer away and people still don't know who it is, and it's just as much fun that they don't.
And it's a good movie, too.
That's right, it is. Now let's take another look at the movies we reviewed this week, and if you have any questions about any of these, call Gene at the Tribune and he'll be happy to fill you in. Somehow, though, I think that this week's movie is going to have a lot of bad news. We both voted thumbs down on the Holcroft Covenant, the confused but complicated thriller starring Michael Caine. 2 more thumbs down for Bring On the Night, a Sting documentary that played more like a promotional film and raised a lot of questions that it never answered. And 2 more thumbs down, making 6 thumbs down in all. These 2 for Target, the ridiculous and unbelievable thriller starring Gene Hackman and Matt Dillon. So it's about time for those good November pictures to start coming along.
Can't wait for it. That's for this week. Next time we'll be back with reviews of 4 more new movies, including White Knight starring Mikhail Baryshnikov and Gregory Hines, as dancers fighting for different reasons to get out of the Soviet Union. And also Charles Bronson. He still hasn't gotten rid of all of his vengeful feelings. He's back in Death Wish 3. That's next week, and until then, we'll see you at the movies.